Edmund Ashford, Duke of Clarewood, had attended perhaps 200 auctions in his lifetime. Art, furniture, land, horses. He had learned early that the trick was to look bored, not artificially, not as performance, but genuinely, because genuine boredom was the only reliable defense against overpaying for something you didn't need. He was very good at looking bored. He was also very good at leaving. Clean exits, no lingering, no small talk on the steps. In and out. The carriage would be waiting and Thomas would have the door open before Edmund had fully descended the last step. That afternoon was no different. He came through the main doors of Hargrove's auction house on King Street, pulled on his gloves, and descended the steps into the thin November light. Thomas had the door open. The horses were ready. Edmund stopped. She was standing at the bottom of the steps, slightly to the left, pressed against the iron railing as though trying to take up as little space as possible. Young, 20, perhaps 21. Her coat was respectable but worn at the cuffs. Her hair was coming loose from its pins on one side, and she hadn't noticed or didn't care. She was looking through the auction house window. Not at anything in particular. The sale was over, the room half emptied, men in coats moving between the remaining lots with catalogs under their arms. There was nothing left to see. But she was looking anyway. And she was crying. Not loudly. Not in the way that demanded attention. The opposite, she was crying in the way of someone who had long practice at doing it without being noticed. Shoulders controlled, face turned slightly toward the glass, the tears simply falling, quietly, as though they'd been waiting and she'd stopped having the energy to hold them back. Edmund stood on the bottom step. He had seen many things in London. A woman weeping outside an auction house on a Tuesday afternoon was not, objectively, remarkable. There were 100 explanations and most of them were none of his business. He knew this. He took a step toward her anyway. She didn't notice him. She was somewhere else entirely, inside, behind the glass, chasing something that was already gone. Edmund opened his mouth. "Sir." Thomas, at his elbow, quietly. "The afternoon appointment." Edmund closed his mouth. He looked at the girl one more time. At the worn cuffs. At the tears she wasn't bothering to wipe away. At her hand, pressed flat against the cold glass, as though she could reach through it. He turned. Got into the carriage. The door closed. The horses moved. Edmund looked out the window as they pulled away from King Street, and he saw her still standing there, smaller now, receding, her hand against the glass. The carriage turned a corner. She was gone. Edmund had read somewhere, he couldn't remember where, some philosopher or other, that regret was simply the mind's way of identifying what it actually valued. He'd thought it was a reasonable observation at the time. Sitting in his carriage on the way to an appointment he no longer remembered caring about, watching London move past the window in shades of grey and brown, he revised his opinion. Regret, he thought, was considerably less philosophical when it was happening. He had been standing 2 feet from her. He had said nothing. He had gotten into his carriage because Thomas had said appointment and his feet had simply done what feet did when Edmund Ashford was operating on habit rather than thought. Moved toward the carriage. Gotten in. Left. He thought about the hand on the glass. He thought about what could make a person press their hand against a window like that, reaching for something on the other side that was already out of reach. He thought, I know what that feels like. And then he thought, I got into a carriage. He arrived at his appointment. Sat through it. Said the correct things at the correct moments. Signed what needed signing. Thanked the correct people. And the entire time, in the back of his mind, pressed flat and impossible to ignore. A girl at a window. A hand against glass. And himself, in a carriage, going the wrong direction. He told himself he would forget it by morning. He didn't forget it by morning. He told himself it was nothing, a moment, a stranger. London was full of strangers with private sorrows, he couldn't stop for all of them. This was true and also entirely beside the point. He told himself, on the third day, when he was still thinking about it, that he had no way of finding her again, that it was finished, that whatever that moment had been it was over. This was almost true. Almost. Because on the morning of the fourth day, Edmund called for his coat, told Thomas to bring the smaller carriage, and went for a drive through St. James's Park. He told himself it was for the air. He was not, at this point in his life, a man who lied to himself very effectively. He drove through the park slowly. And on a bench near the south path, with something small and needled in her hands that she wasn't really working on, sat a girl in a coat with worn cuffs. Edmund stopped the carriage. He sat for a moment. Then he got out. Nora Cassidy had been sitting on that bench that morning because she had nowhere else to go. It sounded like a dramatic line, but it was true. The Cassidy house felt closed to her. Technically she could walk in, technically she lived there, but not a single room had ever felt like hers. It was her stepmother Mrs. Hilda Cassidy's house. Hilda's daughter's house. Hilda's furniture, Hilda's rules, Hilda's gaze. For 12 years, Nora had been a guest in that house. Guests did not pack their suitcases, but Nora's was always ready, at least in her mind. She had been 8 when her mother died. She remembered very little, a smile, a scent, the tone of a voice. Memory worked like that at 8, it did not preserve things cleanly, it left fragments behind. Nora had spent years collecting those fragments, things neighbors said, occasional sentences her father let slip, a few objects that remained in the house. The most important of those objects was the brooch. It was small. Silver, oval, with simple engraved edges. At its center, a small navy blue stone. And on the back, fine etchings that required strong light to read, M.C., with love. M.C. Margaret Cassidy. Her mother. Nora did not know who had given her mother that brooch. Perhaps her father, perhaps someone else. But it was the most tangible thing left of her, something that could be touched, carried, proven real. Hilda had never liked it. This had been a mutual, silent agreement, never spoken aloud. Hilda had not beaten Nora, had not starved her, had not mistreated her in any visible way, those things would have left a record. Instead, she had erased her. A systematic, patient, complete disregard. Her father had not seen it. Or had chosen not to. His second marriage had softened him, life with Hilda had become easier, money had come, comfort had settled in. Nora's discomfort had no place in that carefully maintained picture. Her father had died 2 years ago. And Nora had been left entirely in Hilda's house. The morning of the auction had unfolded like this. When Nora came downstairs, Hilda was placing a small box on the table. Nora recognized it immediately. Her stomach tightened. Hilda turned. Her expression was the same as always, flat, knowing. "I've cleared out unnecessary things," she said. This was among them. Nora looked at the box. Then at Hilda. "That belongs to my mother," she said. "Your mother is gone," Hilda replied. "And this brooch is taking up space. They'll give a good price for it at Hargrove." Nora tried speaking plainly. Then pleading. Then silence. None of it worked. Hilda took the box and left. Nora had run to the auction. But she was too late. 10 minutes, maybe 15. When she entered, she asked for the lot number, tried to find it, but the sale was already over. The brooch was gone. That was why she had stood in front of the glass. Not to see the buyer. But to look, one last time, at the room that still held her mother. Edmund Ashford's story looked different from the outside. Dukes always did. That was their greatest advantage, even when they had problems, they did not appear to have them, because everything around them insisted otherwise. Large houses, fine suits, doors that opened without question. Edmund's father, his real father, had died when he was very young. Too young for clear memories. Only the absence remained. An empty place at the table. Questions that never received answers. His mother had remarried a few years later. Lord Harwick. Wealthy, established, approved by society. Harwick was not a cruel man. Edmund told himself that, to be fair. Not cruel, only that he found Edmund unnecessary. A remnant of a previous marriage, a matter to be managed, a presence best kept as unobtrusive as possible. Edmund had understood this very early. And he had learned early as well, sometimes, being invisible was the safest thing. Be quiet. Take up no space. Ask no unwelcome questions. As he grew older, those rules reshaped themselves into something else: control, distance, avoidance of emotion. At 34, Edmund Ashford was successful, respected, and said exactly the right things in every room. And he spoke to almost no one in any real sense. When he first noticed the bench in the park, he walked past it. Then he stopped. Then he turned back. Nora lifted her head. She saw the man sitting beside her, well-dressed, mid-30s. His face felt familiar, though she could not place it at once. Then she did. The auction. The man leaving through the door. Getting into the carriage. She looked at him, a cold, assessing glance. He spoke. "I saw you last week," he said. "In front of Hargrove. I'm sorry. I should have spoken to you." Nora said nothing. He continued. "I wanted to ask if you were all right." Nora stood. She gathered her sewing. "I'm fine," she said. "And strangers don't need to concern themselves with my well-being." She turned. About to leave. He spoke again. His voice had not changed, but something in it had, regret, perhaps, or honesty. "I regret it," he said. "Getting into that carriage. That's all." Nora stopped. She did not turn back. But she stopped. Then she walked away. Edmund remained alone on the bench. People passed through the park around him. Pigeons pecked at something nearby. And Edmund Ashford, Duke of Clarewood, perhaps for the first time in his life, watched a woman walk away and thought, "I want to do this properly." He did not know how. But that was enough to begin. That same afternoon, he sent for Thomas. "Find the list of participants from Hargrove's last auction," he said. "And see if there is a family named Cassidy in London. A young woman, around 20. Thomas took note. He did not ask questions, that was part of the job. But as he reached the door, he paused. "Sir," he said. "Which Cassidy are we looking for?" Edmund considered it. "There is someone in the park," he said. "Sitting on a bench, sewing, though not really sewing. Her answers are brief and precise. She does not ask for help, but she does not tolerate what she does not deserve." Thomas looked at him. "Very well, sir," he said. "We will find her." The report arrived in 2 days. Thomas placed it on the desk. Edmund opened it. "Read. Nora Cassidy. 21 years old. Her mother, Margaret Cassidy, died 13 years ago. Her father, Robert Cassidy, died 2 years ago. Stepmother Hilda Cassidy, née Hartwell, wealthy, well-connected, a known figure in London's middle-class social circle. Nora's situation, her name appears in her father's will, but the estate was largely left to Hilda. Nora has no independent income. She lives in the Cassidy house. Does sewing work, for neighboring families, for small sums. The last line held Edmund's attention. At Hargrove's auction last Tuesday, a brooch was listed under the Cassidy name. Seller, Hilda Cassidy. Buyer, Mr. Gerald Mercer, Kensington. Edmund closed the report. He sat at his desk for a while. Outside, London moved, horses' hooves, street vendors, a distant church bell. Then he stood. Took his coat. "Thomas," he said. "Find Mercer's address." Gerald Mercer was exactly as expected. 60, heavy-set, the kind of collector for whom collecting was not passion but status. His house stood on a good street in Kensington, large, dim, every room filled with objects enclosed in glass cases. He was surprised to see Edmund. A duke at one's door was not an everyday occurrence. Edmund spoke directly. "The brooch you purchased at Hargrove last Tuesday. I want to buy it." Mercer's eyes sharpened. "I only just acquired it, sir. I haven't even added it to the collection yet." "Whatever the price," Edmund said. Mercer hesitated. Phrases like that were usually negotiation, rarely literal. But Edmund meant it. Mercer understood. He brought the brooch. Edmund took it. It was small, nearly lost in his palm. Silver, oval, simply engraved edges, a small navy stone at its center. He turned it over. Held it to the light. "MC, with love." He paid. Left. He stopped in front of the Cassidy house. A modest house on a quiet Bloomsbury Street. Fresh paint, a tidy garden. This was Hilda Cassidy's house. From the outside, nothing appeared wrong. Edmund knocked. A maid opened. Edmund gave his name, along with his title, because titles opened doors in houses like this. The door opened wider. Edmund waited inside. After a few minutes, footsteps came from the stairs, light, pausing, then continuing. Nora appeared. When she saw him, she froze. 1 second, 2, her face said everything. Surprise, recognition, and then that cold curtain falling into place. "What do you want?" she said. Edmund extended his hand. The brooch rested in his palm. Nora looked. For a long time. Then she raised her eyes to him. "What is this?" she said. Her voice was steady, but something trembled deep beneath it. "I bought it from Hargrove," Edmund said. "From Mercer. It should belong to you." Nora stepped back. "Who told you to do this?" she said. "I wanted to," Edmund replied. Something crossed her face, too fast to name. The urge to cry. To be angry. Both at once. Then it closed. The curtain dropped again. "I don't need charity," she said. "Don't interfere." Edmund still held out his hand. "This isn't charity," he said. Nora did not look at the brooch. "Whatever it is," she said, "I don't want it." She turned. Walked toward the stairs. Edmund spoke, as she was leaving. "It's from your mother." Nora stopped. Halfway up the stairs. Her back to him. Motionless. "I know," she said quietly, just loud enough for him to hear. And she went upstairs. Edmund remained at the door. The brooch in his hand, his thoughts either empty or too full, both led to the same place. The maid gently indicated the exit. Edmund left. That night, he placed the brooch on his desk. Under the lamp, it glowed, small, modest, not objectively valuable. In a jeweler's shop, no one would look twice. But Edmund did. MC, with love. Who had written that? Who had managed to place so much meaning into so few words on the back of a brooch? And that girl, stubborn, proud, refusing to take it, had carried this small thing within her for 13 years. Carried it, lost it. And after losing it, had pressed her hand against an auction window. Edmund understood that. Not because he wanted to. Because he had to. He, too, had lost things, different things, in different ways, but loss itself was familiar. That emptiness. That feeling of being a guest inside a house. Harwick had never beaten him. Never starved him. Only, Edmund had not existed in his gaze. As if when he entered a room, the air shifted slightly. Not much. But it shifted. Edmund had understood that as a child. And the things understood in childhood were the ones that stayed the longest. The next morning, he went again. This time without the brooch. He knocked. The maid opened. Edmund gave his name. Nora did not keep him waiting long this time. She came down. Stopped at the door. Did not let him in. Again, she said. Yes, Edmund said. What do you want? I want to talk, he said. Why? Edmund could not answer. Not quickly, not practically, not convincingly. There was only the truth, that her hand against the glass would not leave his mind, and he wanted to understand why. That would have sounded absurd. So he said something else. I got into that carriage that day, he said. And I regretted it. It's that simple. Nora looked at him. A long, measuring, deciding look. Then she did not close the door completely. Left it half open. Leaned against it. You have 5 minutes, she said. Edmund nodded. And began to speak. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 20. Nora remained leaning against the door. Edmund stood on the pavement. Between them, the width of the doorway, a physical, deliberate distance, guarded by both. Edmund asked. Nora answered, briefly, cautiously, each word measured. But she answered. That mattered. Edmund realized something. This girl did not know how to speak superficially. She either spoke truth, or not at all. There was nothing in between. That was unusual. The people around Edmund were very good at superficial conversation, in meetings, dinners, social gatherings. Everyone always said the right thing. Edmund did too. He had practiced it for years. But this girl stood at the door and spoke truth. And Edmund found himself doing the same, without preparation, without intent. It was strange. And strange things usually unsettled him. This time, they did not. At the end of 20 minutes, Nora pulled back inside. I'm busy tomorrow, she said. And the day after. Edmund nodded. I understand. He turned to leave. Nora spoke again, from behind him, her voice low. Why did you buy the brooch? She said. Really? What did you expect from me? Edmund turned back. He thought for a moment. Nothing, he said. It just should have been yours. Nora looked at him. Then she closed the door. Edmund remained in the street. The November wind was cold, sharp. He began to walk. And in his pocket, still, there was a small brooch. Nora's plan had begun more than a year earlier. A small, quiet plan she had told no one. Because plans that were spoken aloud passed into other people's hands, and plans in other people's hands collapsed. Life had taught her that, hold on to small things tightly, and large things even tighter. The plan was simple. Save money. Enough of it. Then leave. Sewing work brought in little. Repairs for neighboring families, lacework, occasional children's garments. Money came, small, irregular, but it came. And Hilda did not see it, because Hilda did not bother to track what Nora did. Neglect worked both ways. At the end of each week, Nora placed most of what she earned into a small tin box. The box was hidden beneath a loose board beside her bed, the kind of loose board Hilda would never think to have repaired. As the months passed, the box grew heavier. When it was heavy enough, Nora calculated, a ticket to Scotland, rent for the first month, food. Work could be found there, she could sew, she could keep accounts, perhaps even teach. In a small town, someone always needed something. She had chosen Scotland because it was far. Hilda would not reach that far, distance and effort would be barriers. Hilda avoided things that required effort. That was the plan. Simple, modest, entirely her own. After the brooch incident, the plan had not changed. But it had been shaken. Edmund Ashford, Duke of Clarewood, as Thomas had later informed her, had come to her door 2 days in a row. That did not fit into Nora's calculations. Nora categorized people. It was a practical habit, not an emotional one. People were either useful, useless, or harmful. She had taken time trying to place Edmund Ashford. A duke who came to her door with a brooch and expected nothing in return, which category did that belong to? She had found no answer. That unsettled her. And things that unsettled her disrupted the plan. Edmund came again on the 3rd day. This time, Nora did not open the door. The maid did, and said Nora was unavailable. Edmund nodded and left. He did not come on the 4th day. Nora had expected that, or rather, she had expected him not to come. Men like that gave up after 2 refusals. But when he did not come, something small and irrational stirred inside her. She noted it. Then ignored it. 5th day, 7th, 10th, Edmund did not come. Nora returned to her plan. Counted her money. Checked her calculations. Looked up ticket prices again. Everything was in place. On the 12th day, a letter arrived. Only her name was written on the envelope. The handwriting was unfamiliar, neat, economical, without unnecessary flourish. She opened it. A short letter. Miss Cassidy. Asterisk, I do not wish to continue coming to your door. I have no intention of disturbing you, and after 3 visits, I should have understood the message, asterisk. Asterisk, but I wanted to say this, the brooch is still with me. You may take it whenever you wish. No conditions, no expectations, asterisk. Asterisk, if one day you wish to speak, only to speak, not whites, that would be too formal. I walk in St. James Park in the mornings. Tuesdays and Thursdays, at 9, asterisk. E. Ashford. Nora read the letter. Then read it again. She folded it and placed it on her desk. Then stood and looked out the window, Bloomsbury Street, stone pavements, passing carriages, the bare trees in the garden across. November made everything gray. She thought about the letter. No conditions, no expectations. When people said that, they were usually lying. Everything had a condition, everything had an expectation. Nora knew that. Hilda had taught her, kindness was a strategy, goodness an investment, nothing was without return. But Edmund Ashford had bought the brooch. From Mercer, at 3 times the price, Nora had learned that indirectly, through a neighbor's careless gossip. And he had brought it. And been refused. And left. And now he had written, you may take it whenever you wish. What kind of strategy was that? Nora had no answer. On Tuesday morning, 9:10, Nora was in St. James Park. She explained it to herself like this, the weather was good, a walk would help, the park was already in that direction. None of it was entirely true. None of it entirely false. She saw Edmund. On the southern path, alone, gloves in hand, walking slowly. No one with him, no Thomas, no one else. Nora stopped. Edmund stopped as well. He had seen her. They looked at each other. Then Edmund continued walking. Came up beside her. Did not stop, simply began walking next to her, as if continuing an ongoing conversation. "Cold," he said. "But the sun is out." Nora took a step. Then another. They walked. At first, they did not speak. Then Edmund asked, pausing a second before he did, as if weighing the question. "Scotland," he said. Nora stopped. Edmund stopped. "How do you know?" she said. "Thomas found out," Edmund replied. "You bought a ticket." "I did not want to know, but I do." "I apologize." Nora looked at him. "What will you do with that information?" she said. Edmund thought. Truly thought, not a performative pause, but a real calculation. "Nothing," he said. "It is your decision. But before you leave." He stopped. "Before I leave, what?" Nora asked. Edmund took the brooch from his pocket. Held it out to her. "Take this," he said. "Wherever you go, let it be with you." Nora looked at the brooch. It rested in his palm. Small, silver, familiar. Her mother. Something moved inside Nora. Quietly, without display. But it moved. She reached out. Took the brooch. Closed her hand around it. And in that moment, that small, cold November morning, between two strangers in a park, something changed. Nora did not want to admit it. But her hand remained closed. Tightly. "Thank you," she said. Low, brief. Edmund nodded. They walked again. This time they spoke, truly spoke. Nora told him about Scotland, her plan, why she had chosen it. Edmund listened. He did not ask why she was running, did not offer advice, did not prepare his next question. He simply listened. And Nora understood, this man was actually listening. Not preparing a reply, not forming an argument, just listening. That, too, was unusual. When they reached the end of the park, Nora stopped. "I need to turn back here," she said. Edmund nodded. "Will you be here Thursday at 9? He asked. Nora thought. "I don't know," she said. Edmund accepted it. "All right." And they parted. As Nora walked home, the brooch was still in her hand. In the middle of the street, she opened her palm. Looked at it. "MC, with love." Her eyes filled. She let them. No one was watching. On Thursday at 9, Nora was not in the park. She was at home, counting the contents of her tin box. The money was enough. The weather was good. Hilda would be out that afternoon on a social visit, the house would be empty. There could not be a better day to leave. Nora told herself that. Then told herself again. Because sometimes, the truth had to be said twice. She picked up the brooch. Held it in her palm for a moment. Then slipped it into the inner pocket of her dress, the safest place. She opened her suitcase. It was small. Intentionally small, a large one would draw attention, a small one would seem ordinary. She had reviewed its contents 3 times. Nothing extra, nothing missing. 2 dresses. A shawl. Sewing tools. A small book, her father's, its pages worn at the corners. Money. The ticket. And the brooch. She closed it. Locked it. Hilda left at 2 in the afternoon. Nora watched from the window. The carriage door shut, the wheels turned over the pavement, and the house fell silent. Nora picked up her suitcase. Went downstairs. Passed through the kitchen, the familiar smell, the familiar light, the room she had entered every morning for 12 years. She paused for a second. Then stepped out through the back door. The station was 2 miles away. Normally, she would have taken a carriage. But the driver answered to Hilda, and drivers talked. Walking was better. She left Bloomsbury. Crossed into Holborn. The air was cold but still, good for walking. The suitcase was heavy. After 10 minutes, her shoulder began to ache. She did not shift it to the other side, that would draw attention. She kept going. Halfway there, passing through a narrow street in Holborn, she noticed it. Someone was behind her. She heard them first, footsteps, quick, matching her pace. She turned. 2 men. Around 30, poorly dressed, their eyes calculating. Nora quickened her pace. They did the same. The street narrowed. Nora turned left, not a dead end, but quiet. The wrong decision. She hesitated for a moment. That moment was enough. One of them stepped ahead. The other moved to her left. "Would you hand over the suitcase?" one of them said. His tone polite, as if offering help. Nora tightened her grip. "No," she said. The man took a step forward. Footsteps came. Fast. Heavy. Certain. When Edmund turned the corner, Nora did not see him at first. She heard him, then saw him. No coat, no hat, as if he had run. He stopped. Looked at the 2 men. His voice was low. It held no overt threat, which made it worse. Completely calm. Completely certain. "Leave," he said. The 2 men looked at him. Then at each other. They calculated. Quickly, silently, with their eyes. And they left. Silence remained. Nora was still gripping the suitcase. Her hands were shaking, she could feel it, but could not stop it. Edmund turned to her. "Are you all right?" he asked. Nora did not answer. Edmund took a step, then stopped, did not come too close. "Nora," he said. It was the first time he had said her name. Nora noticed that, at a strange moment, in a strange way. "I'm fine," she said. She tried to steady her voice, but it did not fully hold. Edmund looked at her. Not assessing, simply looking. "Let's sit," he said. "There's a coffee house nearby." Nora wanted to object. "The station, it's time for me to." "5 minutes," Edmund said. "Just 5 minutes." Nora glanced at her shoulder. At the suitcase. Her hands were still trembling. "All right," she said. The coffee house was small, warm, not crowded. They sat at a corner table. Edmund ordered 2 cups. Nora kept her hands under the table, she did not want the trembling to be seen. Edmund did not speak at first. That, too, was unusual. Most people would rush to fill the silence, especially after something like this, especially when there was so much that could be said. Edmund waited. Nora spoke first. "How did you find me?" she asked. Edmund answered, as always, directly. "Thomas," he said. "Hilda had a visit today, I learned that. And you weren't in the park this morning." The 2 together. "You had me followed," Nora said. "No," Edmund said. Thomas was concerned. "I was concerned." Nora looked at him. "Why?" she said. Edmund glanced at his cup. Then back at her. "Because I know you," he said. "Enough. And I knew you wouldn't go with someone, but I also knew going alone could be dangerous." Nora said nothing. The coffee arrived. They drank. Then Edmund spoke again. He said something unexpected. Nora had not been prepared for it, and so it reached her directly. "I wanted to leave too," he said. "When I was a child." Nora looked at him. Edmund continued. "I had a stepfather. He was a good man, not cruel. But I did not exist for him. When I entered a room, the air shifted. That was all. Silence. And I, Edmund said, spent years making myself smaller in that house. I learned to be invisible. Because being seen, truly seen, felt too risky. Nora brought her hands onto the table. The trembling had stopped. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. Edmund looked at her. "Because you know that feeling," he said. "And someone who knows that feeling should not leave alone." Nora watched him for a long moment. "What do you suggest, then?" she said. "That I don't go alone?" Edmund thought. "Nothing," he said. "It's your decision." But what?" Nora asked. "But before you go, I wanted you to know this," Edmund said. "Here too, in this city, you can be seen. If you choose to be." That night, Nora returned to the Cassidy house. She did not unpack the suitcase. She left it closed, ready, waiting, undecided. She took out the brooch. Sat on her bed. Looked at it. MC, with love. Her mother had carried it. Wherever she went. And in the end, she had let it go. Death had taken it, but still, she had let it go. Nora wanted to carry it too. Wherever she went. But now there was a question in her mind, new, unsettling, unanswered. Where did she actually want to go? To Scotland? Or simply, away from here? And were those the same thing? Nora had never considered that distinction before. Until now. It was early morning. Nora had not slept, or she had, perhaps for 2 hours, in that half-waking, half-thinking state that did not truly count as sleep. She was looking out the window. Bloomsbury was slowly waking, first the sound of horses, then street vendors, then doors opening. The suitcase was still closed. The brooch was in her palm. Nora had thought all night. About the plan. About Scotland. About her stepmother. About what Edmund had said. Asterisk, you can be seen here as well. If you choose to, asterisk. Very few people had ever seen Nora. Her father had, but he was gone. Hilda had not, or had seen and not cared, which amounted to the same thing. Edmund, however, Edmund had seen her. In a strange way. Through the auction glass, in the park, in the coffee house. Each time, a little more. And Nora had noticed. Reluctantly, resisting it, but she had noticed. The problem was this: being seen was good. And good things frightened Nora. Because good things left. Her mother had left. Her father had left. The brooch had left, it had come back, but it had left. Running was safer. Running was protection. But last night, in the coffee house, with her hands trembling, sitting across from Edmund, Nora had realized something. Running was also a loss. It just happened earlier. At 9:05, Nora stood up. She looked at the suitcase. Then opened her wardrobe. Put on her dress. Wrapped her shawl. Slipped the brooch into the inner pocket, as she always did. She went downstairs. Stepped out through the back door. But this time, she carried no suitcase. St. James Park at 9:10 was quiet. It was the last week of autumn. The trees were nearly bare, the morning mist not yet fully lifted. Nora entered from the southern path. Walked. Edmund was there, in the middle of the path. He had stopped. Waiting, or not waiting, simply there, perhaps in his own thoughts. When he saw Nora, he turned. They walked toward each other. Met halfway. Nora stopped. Edmund stopped. "No suitcase," Edmund said. He kept his voice neutral, but there was something in it, the urge to ask, to understand, held back. Nora looked at him. No suitcase, she said. No. Edmund waited. Nora continued. Her voice was steady, measured, each word placed carefully. I wanted to run, she said. For a long time. And it was logical, it still is, in a way. Hilda's house is not my home. It never was. Edmund listened. But, Nora said, I thought about it last night. Running is not a solution, it's just an early loss. And I've lost enough. Silence. A gust of wind passed. Leaves shifted. What will you do? Edmund asked. Nora thought. I don't know, she said. Not yet. But I'll stay. At least for now. I'll speak to Hilda, truly speak, for the first time. I have rights from my father, I'll go to a lawyer. I'll take the steps. Edmund watched her. Alone? He asked. Nora paused for a moment. Probably, she said. But not by running this time. Edmund reached into his pocket. Nora expected the brooch. But it was not the brooch. A small piece of paper. Folded neatly. Nora opened it. Looked. A name and an address. A lawyer, Edmund's lawyer. Beneath it, a short note in Edmund's handwriting. Asterisk, this lawyer is honest. Good with wills. Use him if it helps. If it doesn't, discard it, asterisk. Nora held the paper. Looked at it. When did you prepare this? She asked. Last night, Edmund said. On the way back from the coffee house. You didn't know I would come back, Nora said. Edmund shrugged slightly. No. But I wanted to be prepared. Nora looked at the paper. Then at Edmund. And for the first time, real, unguarded, entirely her own, she smiled. It was brief. Light. Unexpected, the kind that surprised even her. Edmund watched. In the way he always did, fully attentive, without unnecessary interpretation. And he smiled as well. They walked. They talked, about plans, steps, Hilda, the lawyer, what might happen, what might not. Practical things. Real things. And then, almost idly, Edmund asked. Would you ever want to see Scotland? He said. Truly see it. Not as an escape. Nora looked at him. Maybe, she said. Edmund nodded. It's a beautiful place, he said. Better in the summer. Nora laughed again. This time longer. 2 years later. Hilda Cassidy remembered that winter for a long time. Her young stepdaughter, that quiet, invisible girl who had never caused trouble, had gone to a lawyer. She had the will examined. A small inheritance from her father had surfaced, not large, but it was Nora's. Entirely, legally, indisputably hers. With that money, Nora rented a small 2-room place on a quiet street in Bloomsbury. When she left Hilda's house, the suitcase was small. Deliberately small. Inside it were 2 dresses, a shawl, sewing tools, a small book, and the brooch. 2 years later, that small place was still hers. She could afford something larger now, her sewing work had grown, she was tutoring the children of a nearby family, her finances had stabilized. But she loved that place. It belonged to her. Every corner of it was hers. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, she walked in St. James Park in the mornings. She was not always alone. One November morning, close to the anniversary of that cold day 2 years before, someone spoke to Nora in the park. An elderly woman, walking her dogs, someone who recognized Nora from the path. That brooch is very beautiful, she said. You always wear it. Whose is it? Nora looked at the brooch. Touched it with her finger. My mother's, she said. The woman nodded. A lovely memory. Yes, Nora said. Edmund was beside her. He had heard. He said nothing, there was nothing he needed to say. They kept walking. The trees were bare. The air was cold. In the distance, London moved, carriages, vendors, the sound of a church bell. Familiar sounds. Nora tightened her shawl. Edmund walked beside her. Between them, that diagonal distance remained, close, but respectful, unspoken, yet understood. They reached the end of the southern path. Shall we turn back? Edmund asked. Nora looked at the park. Then at Edmund. Let's walk a little longer, she said. And they did. Thank you for listening to the story all the way to the end. Please tell us which city you're watching from and what the story made you feel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new stories.